Psalms 58:3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Call halal Yahweh Bashanab Shai Basham Kakudash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. This will be for the Critical Race History channel. And this is a couple videos that, well, this one was put up by the brother Stay in the Spirit 144. Brother, I subscribe to his page. He always puts up very good and edifying videos. And I may also use one from the brother Kawalia from the Chicago camp of GMS up in the Evanston camp. I may use his video as well, but I'm just gonna play this outright blatant lie, this denial, this plausible deniability, and cognitive dissonance, and outright ignoring facts. Because what it is that shameful spewing is being put upon the glory of Old Glory on this so-called white man. He's embarrassed and ashamed because we're in the information age, and he's being found out his true nature, what he did, and how he got everything that he has. He got it all through rape, robbery, murder, and through very unrighteous decrees. So without any further ado, let's let it play.
White neighborhoods across the country, parents are something called critical race theory, and what they believe is its sneaky inclusion into the public school curriculum.
So let me just start that again. Sneaky inclusion
over something called critical race theory, and what they believe is its sneaky inclusion into the public school curriculum.
We will not have cancel culture. We will not have critical race theory.
In fact, during recent school board meetings in Randolph, Morris County, New Jersey, several residents went as far as to claim CRT amounts to child abuse. Given all the buzz, we decided it was time for a closer look at critical race theory. Britannica Encyclopedia states that critical race theory is based on the premise that race is a, quote, socially constructed category that is used to oppress and exploit people of color.
My understanding of critical race theory, it's pointing a finger outward, all around people who are affected by the history of race in the country, slavery, and not to be judgmental at all or begrudging of anybody, but the African American community in the country would be very well served to focus more inward.
Lissauer's position echoes what we've heard time and time again from critics of critical race theory. America's history does not warrant the need for an in-depth classroom examination of racism.
I'm not sure there is systemic racism in the United States. I mean,
oh, you question that?
I do question that. I don't think there is.
When you say is, you mean currently, or you question whether there ever was?
Let's say there was, historically, right? But even when there was, this country was found...
You see, wait a minute. He said, even when there was. So first he said, let's say if that was, and then he turns around and says, even when there was, because it was. Gad used to always say, the so-called natives, that this man spoke with a forked tongue, and he does, because he's a serpent. And watch what he says now.
Okay, idealistic principles.
Let's take that back a little bit.
The country was founded, okay, on idealistic principles that were all created equal.
I have a unique
Okay, so he said it was found on the principles that were all created equal. All right, right here I'm holding once again the hidden heroism. And we're just gonna read some of the hate by Robert E. Egerton. I'm going to go to page 11, and then I'm going to read from page 63. Yeah. I'm going to read page 60, most of page 63 and a little bit of page 64. All right, but we're going to start on page 11. So let's just get the mindset of the so-called white man here in America. All right, and still, because that generation is here now. Okay, and this is on page 11, and it reads, matter of fact, I might just put it up to the camera. And it reads, West Indian slaves were African born, but they weren't from Africa. See, that's another lie they tell. They don't like to speak about the fact that they were refugees in Africa coming from Israel, which is factual truth. Unruly West Indian slaves were flogged, slaves could be flogged savagely, some even killed, but given the shortage of slaves, sub-lethal punishment was much more preferred. For example, an English Jamaican plantain owner named Thomas Thistlewood. Thomas Thistlewood has been claimed, and he will be going to the wall. Recorded in his diary that after the slave ate some sugar cane, he should have been harvesting. He ordered the man flogged, then bound him in a prone position while another slave was ordered to shit in his mouth. Take that in. Being tied to the ground face up while another man sits on your face and shits in your mouth, and you forced to hold your mouth open because you're beaten every time you try to close it. All right. As far as a senior student of West Indian slavery could judge, well, let me just bring it on back. I just wanted you to see that with your own eyes. Could judge from Thistlewood's diary, the man did not appear to have been a sadist. Similar forms of brutal and degrading punishment were common throughout the Caribbean, from Danish to Spanish territories. The same thing was being done here in America. Now we're going to go to page 63. All right. I'm going to start the second paragraph. In the wake of this violence, growing numbers of sexual relationships between white men and black women in Atlanta throughout the South was once again became the target of concern. In 1907, J.H. Curry, the district attorney of Meridian, Mississippi, addressed a jury as follows. The accursed shadow of miscegenation. All right, so miscegenation laws were created in the 1680s. I think they started creating them in the 1640s. Where there were laws where a so-called black man or a native man could not have sex with or be with, in 1660s actually, with white women, because what you have to understand is that white women were choosing to marry Negroes and Native American men, sometimes even Chinese men. They would choose the men of color over white males, all right, in the colonies. There was a shortage of women, and the women would come over here. The Edomite women would come here, and they would marry. Even though when they would marry these Negro men, they would join them in slavery. So that's how much more desirable these men were over white males. So they created these laws which gave white males all sort of benefits, and those laws is what got the white male to be so popular to this day. Because these miscegenation laws, a man of color could not own a firearm. He could not have sex with any women outside of his own race. He could not own land. He couldn't own property. He couldn't get bank loans, and he couldn't take a white male to court. Or sue him. So no matter what wrong. So basically, what this did was this gave the so-called white male unlimited power over men of color. All right. And then even the white women began to stop messing with, men of color, Jakes, after a while, because their lives were just too miserable in doing so. All right, so they created a very unfair, unrighteous. Matter of fact, let me grab that. That's a good scripture to bring out. That's Isaiah 10:1, I believe. Isaiah 10:1, and it reads, "Woe to them that decree unrighteous decrees, and they write grievousness which they have prescribed." Now, and that's what they did. They put these unrighteous decrees, these miscegenation laws into place, and to add insult to injury, in 1681 in Virginia, in this same place, they also, for the first time, in law and paperwork, wrote down or were labeled themselves as white people. That's a very important historical fact right there that needs to be known. All right, because I'm sure that they were referring to themselves as that around this time, but it wasn't in documentation. It wasn't put to pen and paper. It wasn't put into ink, into law, written into law until 1681. They self-proclaimed themselves white people and gave white people all these benefits, even indentured slaves. So that's how, just out of sure survival, the women began to, choose the pale male just simply for survival. So now that we know that part, let me go back into to this book. It says, "The accursed shadow of miscegenation laws hang over the South today like a pall of hell. We talk much of the Negro question and all its possible ramifications and consequences, but gentlemen, the trouble is not far afield. Our own people are white men with their black concubines." So basically, they were having their way with our women. They would have their wives and their families, and then they would put up there, and then they would come to the hood and have their concubines in the hood, and were making tear babies, something that you black only Israelites don't like to talk about. All right, these children that are walking around with Negroid features and Negro type hair, but got Edomite fathers. They're tares. They're really white people, so called. They don't like to talk about that part. All right, and they even mentioned in this thing too how race, and I'm a little bit more of it play, how race is a false concept or a social construct which they created, and that part is true. That's very much true, because it's all about nationality. And as you can see, you could be brown skinned like your black mama, but have a white daddy, and guess what you are? You are the seed of your father. So this is about nationality, and it's vice versa, because it's a whole lot of white people walking around so-called that got so-called black fathers. All right, so it's not about color. Esau Edom and his lies have made this thing about color. That's why he likes to say African American or black Hebrew Israelites, because he created those social constructs, and he doesn't like to deviate from them, because then he gets exposed. Let me drop down. It says, after these riots in Texas and Georgia, relations between the races were frighteningly tense. A white woman in Atlanta told a visitor from the North Side that she did not feel like she knew African Americans anymore. Since the riot, they have grown so glum and serious. I am free to say I am scared of them. Well, she's scared of them, all right, because some Negroes fought back when they were attacked. But I'm gonna finish reading. Let me just let him speak a little bit more. I know there was a point that I wanted to speak on today.
Idealistic principles that we're all created equal.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah. Now, the idealistic principles that were all created equal. Well, when the Constitution was written, Negroes were in slavery. Native Americans were called savages, and for the most part were being hunted down, killed, or their lands being taken. All right? So where was the equal at? lie with a straight face. This piece of shit. This red ass dog who gonna call himself white. Okay? It says, similar feelings could be found throughout the white South. The Ku Klux Klan responded by becoming even more visible and violent. Southern blacks were no less tense, and many immigrated to the North. Racial tensions were not eased by repeated lynchings. For example, in early 1911, a black man accused of killing a white man was taken from his jail cell in Livermore, Kentucky, to a town's opera house, where an admission fee was charged to all who wanted to watch his murder. So he was accused, and they just wanted to murder him. All right, but let me just keep reading, because they do murder him. It says, an admission fee was charged to all who wanted to watch his murder. Anyone who paid for orchestra seats was allowed to empty his revolver at the victim. Those in the gallery were limited to a single shot. Yeah, I'm leaving his face up as he tries to act as if he doesn't know this history, and he does. This is why that white woman stood up there and said, we don't want critical race theory. But it is not theory. This is facts. This is factual history. All right? And all the sources where this history came from is in this book. It's all, they gave you the sources, all the pages in the different books and newspapers where all this stuff came from. All right? That's what I love about these older type books, man. It says the NAACP was outraged as there were many other African Americans seeing that's one of those social constructs that they created. All right? Because we're talking about Israelites from the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi here, who learned about the killings. There was no apologies given. Apologies? What about people going to jail? What about people getting sentenced to death? See, they killed after slavery, they killed untold thousands of our men. And not one person posed with the bodies, chopped up the bodies, burnt the bodies, traded and sold the body parts, put them on postcards with addresses and names and family names. And none of these people getting sued or going to jail or being held accountable for what they did. Some of these older people are old as hell, still alive. But you know what? They still be hunting down 90-year-old Nazi war criminals, in wheelchairs with oxygen tanks. But none of these people came to justice. All right? Not only did whites offer no apologies for the ways in which the lynchings were carried out, but many pointedly insisted that once they believed the crime had been committed by a black man, it did not matter which black man was lynched for it. A Southern military man, Captain McBain, explained these positions as follows. Burn the nigger. We seem to have the right nigger, but whether we have or not, burn a nigger. It is an assault upon a white race. It would justify white people in burning any nigger. The example would be all more powerful if we got the wrong one. It would serve notice on the niggers that we should hold the whole race responsible for the misdeeds of each individual. If you're not mad and don't have the desire to just go out and put an Edomite to death, something wrong with you. Now, I'm not advocating that you do it. All right, I'm not saying that. Don't twist my words. But if you don't feel like it, if you don't feel like you want justice, you don't want revenge, something wrong with you. All right, this is numbers is it 35, 33 or 33, 35? Let's see. Yeah, it's 35, 33. Because there's only one way for that to be rectified. All right, the blood of those who spilled it has to be spilled. All right. This is Numbers 35 and 30. Whoso killeth for any person, the murderer shall be put to death by the mouth of witnesses, but one of the witnesses shall not testify against any person to cause him to die. Matter of fact, let me drop down to verse 33. All right. It says, so ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. So the only way for this land to be cleansed is for these Edomites' bloods to be shed, and be shed it shall. Thus saith the Lord, thus saith the Bible. All right, because it is written. Let me get this is James 2 and 13. And it reads, he shall have judgment without mercy that showed no mercy. And mercy rejoiceth against judgment. One more scripture, man. Let's get Ezekiel. All right. Matter of fact, this is Lamentations 4:21. And it reads, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee, and thou shalt be drunken and make thyself naked. See, they being exposed now. All right. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sin. So these Edomites are getting visited too. Look at what's happening to them in their countries and the places where they dwell, their economy. Their kingdom is dying right before your face. All right? They're being exposed. This is a shame. White children and white people are ashamed of being so-called white. Yeah. They actually have classes and meetings on it to deal with it. But this is Ezekiel 25, starting at verse 12. And it reads, thus saith Yahweh power, because that Edom have dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, and have greatly offended and revenged himself upon them. Therefore thus saith Yahweh power, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom, and will cut off man and beast from it. And I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of the Dan shall fall by the sword. And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. And they shall do in Edom according to mine anger, and according to my fury. And they shall know my vengeance, saith Yahweh power. Call halal Yahweh Bashan Abashai, Bashim Kakwadash, Wa Abba Babal, Kwam Yasharallah.